This lecture is about using technology to support students in the classroom. So we're going to be thinking about this from a number of perspectives, and one of the key messages is this doesn't all have to be high-tech and very expensive. So let's see what we've got. That certainly, the photo there would be an image of what we would usually think about when we think about learning support technology. And it is to be acknowledged that learners have had a great deal of support in recent times that was not available before, and students with profound disabilities have been given access to be able to communicate, and really an enhancement to their learning. Assistive technology, as its name suggests, is about technology that's going to support learners. And Education Queensland has a really good website that I encourage you to explore. On here we can see that assistive technology is any of these sorts of aspects of hardware, software and so on that enhance the capacity for all students to engage more effectively with the curriculum and the learning environment. So they're not an end in themselves, they're about overcoming barriers and supporting learning. You can have high-tech options, so certainly the picture on the previous slide showed some very high-tech options and very expensive ones, but that's not all that is needed. Assistive technology can also be low-tech and can be really quite cheap and certainly easy to use. The photo there shows a slope board, so a young learner who might have some difficulties with fine motor skills or gross motor has a slope board provided, and you can see that the paper's clipped in place, so he hasn't got to use muscles to try to hold his work, and occupational therapists will provide those sorts of pieces of equipment, but they can also be useful for lots of people without necessarily a therapist giving that information or providing that support. Here are a couple of ones around writing as well. Do you notice down the bottom right hand corner you've got a pencil grip? That helps a beginning writer to form the correct grip on a pencil. And if you go into classrooms and you see kids who are sort of hanging onto a pencil, gripping it like it's a digging stick rather than using the tripod formation, you can see that they're developing a style of writing that's going to be very, very difficult for them, and they'll need to develop a faster and more efficient way of holding a pencil if they're going to be good writers. And we do need to have handwriting skills. The paintbrushes there, you can see that they're a grip that makes it easier for little hands to use, or for people older who've got physical disabilities. There are some other things that are available that typically require some assessments, such as a supportive seat, particular furniture and so on, and occupational therapists are the ones who can assist with that, but it's important to know those things are available. So further on from that, these are direct quotes from that website. We can see here that assistive technology supports students in inclusive learning environments by, now the first dot point's about teaching, delivering information to students in a way that's more appropriate to their needs. Have a look at the next one. Changing the way a student can interact with the curriculum and their environment. Well, that one's about learning. And then if you look at the last one, this is about students demonstrating their knowledge and understanding. So that's about assessing. So what they're talking about is how assistive technology can work to support learners through those three key parts of the teaching learning process. Let's have a look at some of the examples. You can go through those at your own pace. Important things about physical, if students have got physical disabilities, You can have alternative keyboards, alternative mice, who knows, you can have all sorts of different ones there. Alternative and augmentative communication, AAC, systems are really powerful, and they have helped so many people to have a way of really opening up communication so that they can learn from other people but also be able to say what they want to say. And this has been one of those really dramatic revolutions that have come about through technology. Then there are particular ones around literacy and visual supports, and we've got some examples here. You'll probably recognise that that's a keypad from an ATM, the top right. Notice the universal design features, so it's got braille on there, it's got very large raised numbers that you can see quite clearly, quite a high contrast. The red button, we've got the real indication through red, meaning stop. Then we've got green and enter and so on. So we've got cues in that, and that represents universal design, where we've got those devices and features there. If we don't need them, it doesn't matter. Clicker 7, your textbook chapter talks about Clicker 7. It's a particular software that's really very powerful for many learners, and it takes a fair bit to get to know it, but any complex word software package that's worth it does take that time. But it also is so powerful that once you've used it and learnt to use it, you really see the advantages. And then there are all sorts of visual supports, so you can turn your iPhone or any other smartphone, I'm sure, into a magnifying device, and these features are built in, but you can also buy little magnifiers, so it will take text that's not electronic and allow people to adapt it. So one of the things that I want you to do is spend some time looking at the accessibility features of the devices that you have. It's quite an extraordinary thing to think about how much is just available now built in. Things that a lot of us can use at various times. One of the features that I've come to love is I don't know whether it's called Siri or Alexa or one of those, where I just press the button and I speak into it and ask it to call somebody, and it will do that without me having to find the numbers and log in and all sorts of things. So these features are very helpful for everybody, but they are particularly useful for people who've got particular disabilities or learning support needs, and it's great to know what they are. Here are some other things that you can have a look at your own leisure, and I think that you might enjoy looking at Employable Me. And if you go in particular from 39 minutes 22 seconds, where one of the participants uses augmentative communication, assistive AAC, augmentative and assistive communication, to talk with people who are interviewing him for a job. And you can watch the entire episode to see if he gets it or not. But there are some things that aren't built in, but they are particularly useful for people who have specific needs. Some technologies that you can look up, but the one that I'm going to draw your attention to is the UQ Learning Library Digital Essentials. I'm going to ask that you do that as one of the tasks that's required this week, because the students worked in collaboration with staff to explore this particular area around accessibility using technology. It's a really wonderful resource, and I encourage you to get stuck into it. Now it really takes you down lots of fascinating areas, and some will appeal to others more than others, so you'll find whatever adventure takes you. Well, you can then think about what's your favourite learning support technology, and you'd be welcome to share that with other people in the group. And Well, when I did it, I went down a rabbit hole. I spent quite a bit of time doing some of these things. I found out about voiceover on iPhones, and that was from doing the accessibility hack. Um, and I think it really blew my mind. Mind you, it got it to be annoying, so I turned it off because I don't need it, but it's available just there. The other app that I wanted to talk to you briefly about is Explain Everything. If you are in a position where you are teaching students online, maybe you're supporting them on your observations or later on in prac, this is an app that it's like a whiteboard, so you can record writing with your voice, explaining things, and you can make little clips. Now, I've used this when I've been teaching maths, and so if you want to show students how to do a little technique, maybe how to factorize an equation, or you might want to show people how to maybe find the prime factors, or some just little bite-sized bit, you can explain it, you can draw on it, and then you can save it and upload it. And one of the surprising findings in this sort of work is that while students could find clips that are highly crafted and professionally produced, they love hearing their teacher and just going over what their teacher's done. So you can do them really quite quickly once you get used to it. And the thing too is not to go back over and edit it too much. Don't aim for the perfect presentation unless you've made a mistake, of course. Just go with it. If it's a bit rough, that's what students get. And yep. So the other key message, and probably a really major one, is that it's not that you all have to be experts. This is a huge area of work, and it would take a full-time job to keep in touch with all of the new devices, the new ways of that are available through technology. And it is the full-time job of people. There are people who are specialist staff in Education Queensland, and occupational therapists work with different organisations. Am aware of, and speech pathologists too. I'm aware of people who are employed by big Catholic education departments. So their role is to support all the schools in their district. If you're working in a small school that's not part of a system, these people are still available, and so if you have a particular support need, you would be able to make contact, and perhaps it's a pay by service fee. Other organisations like Australian Hearing and Vision Australia provide tremendous amounts of technology advice and assistance, and they will assist teachers to use the devices that are available. So you're not on your own. But the more you know and you've got on touch and at the fingertips, then the better it is. So what have we been looking at? Well, today we've been thinking about using technology for learning support. I want to emphasise that high and low tech options are available, and depending on the needs of the student, it's probably not going to be expensive. One of the things that is sometimes seen as a barrier is that it's so expensive, but certainly if you need really high-end equipment, that is, but other things are really quite simple, and many features are now built in. So we don't need to be experts in this, so long as you know where to look. So we're thinking about if you're developing a teaching program, you might be thinking about what technology might be available, and then of course beyond universal design, what support needs particular learners presenting with, and then getting help. So a couple of things to do. I want you to explore the accessibility features of whatever ICT device you have. They will have guides, and maybe there are things on the web as well. And then don't forget that Digital Essentials Accessibility Study Hacks, and enjoy!